All right. So I was having a look tonight at the charts for Steam for Tekken 8, Street Fighter 6, and I was actually really surprised because when I had a look, it's like, oh, that's kind of tiny, bro. Only 6,000 people, and that'll probably go up a little bit more, give or take, depending on how the night goes. But interesting if we actually go over to the Steam charts database. So this is purely on Steam, right? We have an all-time peak in the last 24 hours at 8,736. We're on our way there at the moment. 5,693. When Lydia drops, I have no doubt that'll pick up as well. And an all-time peak in 46,139. How did I come to the conclusion that the game is dying? Well, it's not doing so good in comparison to, say, something like Street Fighter 6, which right now has a current player base online playing immediately on Steam at 17,459 at a 24-hour peak at 36,383. Now, you could attribute that to Akuma's drop, and then, of course, an all-time peak of 70,540. You'll see here, like we can go through here. So this is in the last 7 days. So 7 days ago, we can see all the numbers up and going, just like, you know, that's the sort of ebb and flow of what we see. Right, we see this with Tekken. We see, you know, sort of gradual drops and a big increase and down again. And some of these could be in line with, say, some of these like sharper rises, right? Could be, you know, them like, I don't know, just the possibility of what's been going on in the last week with the combo breaker stuff, people jumping on and sort of getting a little bit more invigorated, checking out Tekken. But it's interesting when you compare the two. Why is this the case? Now, as far as the gameplay goes, Tekken 8's a lot of fun. I'm just a casual, so, you know, I'm not into the nitty gritty, you know, I'm not trying to be a pro or anything like that. But the gameplay is quite fun. You know, I'm looking forward to the future roadmap of other DLC characters that they're bringing out, as well as, you know, future seasons as well. We're also getting a new stage coming out along with Lydia, which is pretty cool. And of course, we'll no doubt getting a shop update too. So I've seen the comments from pros out there and other people that just, a friend of mine, Breezy, who I interviewed recently, said that Tekken 8 is casino way, because everything just feels like, you know, everything just feels so random, so much guesswork involved. He finds it very alien, I suppose, if you will. And I suppose a lot of sort of legacy Tekken players have found the game that way, right? So they're having to adapt to this new particular mechanic, and that even there's been talks of actually trying to improve defensive options in the game, which is something that you guys know I've been talking about for a long time with MK, right? But with Street Fighter 6, out of the gate, it's actually been pretty solid all the way through. They've done a really, really good job at maintaining a fairly good player base, and again, this is purely on Steam, right? If we look here with Tekken 8, you know, since it's launched in January, it's all been in the negative, right? Which is pretty scary, right? But if we look at Street Fighters, okay, it started off being in the negative, but then it started to pick up. And negative again, pick up, negative, then pick up again, right? So that could attribute to perhaps when they have brought out certain DLC or updates into the shop. I'd have to check specifically what's causing that. But so far, we are, well, what was that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we are now on 1, 2, 3, 4. So if Tekken 8 comes in at another month of being in the negative, it'll be interesting to see what happens after that. Now, obviously, something like Akuma has been a big draw card. Everyone reckons he's fantastic to use. I've barely touched him, but I've had Breezy telling me recently about some of the new stuff they've added with him, which is pretty awesome. I think the reason why there's issues with Tekken 8 on Steam is because of all the microtransactions, right? I think the game took a massive hit when they announced the Tekken shop and the Tekken Fight Pass, and I think it didn't really recover from then. Now, in time, it could do. If they bring out a new Tekken Fight Pass and it's really good, they've taken all the feedback that they got from the first one and gone, you know, we got to make this really good. Add in tons of extra free content all the time. make the season passes really solid with characters, they could claw that back. If we look in comparison to something like Mortal Kombat 1, right? Since its launch, it has only had one positive bump, and that was in March, right? That was in March, okay? And that's pretty sad. You know, like, this game should be killing it. MK1 should be killing it, but it's not, because it's been completely mismanaged from the start on almost every single metric you can imagine. Now, that doesn't mean to say that it can't come back. Maybe. But it really depends now on the possible announcements for future Combat Pack 2 and DLC for the story. But you can see here, it had an all-time peak of 26,000, well below Street Fighters and, of course, well below Tekken's, right? 24-hour peak, maximum, right, in the last, 24 hours has been only 1,240. Street Fighters is 36,000. And Tekken's is 8,700. Now, when Tekken first came out, it was killing it. Absolutely annihilating the competition. And there's currently, right now, let me just refresh, 641 people playing currently right now, as per the Steam charts. So, I think, like, on PC, it's struggling. I think it's struggling because PC gamers do not tolerate shit business practices. It's something that I've always been really appreciative of the PC community, is that when there's a turd, they'll call it out and say, hey, that stinks. They don't care if it's their favorite game. They don't care if it's a big AAA release. They will call that shit out, and the word of mouth will spread, and then the game will start to actually, tank. Right? It wasn't too long ago, there was actually quite a lot of, if we see here, if we go to the actual store page, there was an absolute metric ton of mixed reviews. Right now, obviously, there's been more positive that have come in recently, which is good. Hopefully, with Lydia coming out and the new stage, if they improve the Tekken Fight Pass, that's good. That's all good news, right? But in comparison to Street Fighter 6, now the other thing too you can add in the fact that Street Fighter 6 not only has their World Tour mode, but I believe that when they add in new DLC characters, you can then go into World Tour mode and find them, and then of course do associated missions with them. Correct me if I'm wrong, I haven't tried that yet. I've only done base core World Tour before we got any DLC characters, right? But as far as like being able to maintain player base, it's incredible. Now I think it's attributed to the fact that the DLC, in terms of the announcements of the Tekken shop and whatnot, has hurt Tekken 8. And that while Street Fighter 6 has had its own controversy with the costs of the actual avatar outfits, like the passes that they've had multiple now, as well as the outfit 3's cost, the game still seems to be pushing forward at a fairly strong rate in comparison to Tekken 8. And I wonder if that's because it's got incredible gameplay. Now, again, personally, I love Tekken 8. But a lot of people have been saying recently to me that, Street Fighter 6 is just killing it because it just feels like you have an opportunity to play the way you want. And I think that's really, really important, right? And that could be attributed to the fact that it's got good defensive options in there. The character roster is starting to flex out a little bit more, so that's good. I always thought it launched with a very tiny amount of characters. I didn't really like that. So hopefully by the end of the life cycle, it's going to be a gigantic roster. Nothing is going to peak for me over Ultra Street Fighter 4. But you never know. It might. You never know. It's still way early days for Street Fighter 6. But Street Fighter 6 is killing it. They're killing it. They've got it. And the thing is, though, that like while Tekken 8 is a great game, you got your story mode, but they don't have a big sort of exploration type mode like the World Tour, like the World Tour mode in Street Fighter 6, right? Tekken 8 is kind of done what Mortal Kombat 1 has done. Give you a big cinematic story. You can also have the mini character stories, but there's no exploration outside of the Tekken arcade. And I wonder if that might actually be something that's hurting it. Whereas the World Tour mode, it is literally like Street Fighter's version of Mortal Kombat Deception's Conquest. And it is really cool. You get in there, you talk to all the the fighters that are in the roster. You know, it's just such an amazing experience. So once you've sort of gotten through the story mode for Tekken 8, obviously they're bringing out free story mode DLC, which is great, but that's really, really good. That's a really good move on their part. Hopefully Mortal Kombat is paying attention to this to see, okay, you know, we need to win back people. But on PC, I think Tekken 8 is kind of fallen off in comparison to the big gun, which is Street Fighter 6, right? And obviously, you could talk about, you know, the fact that games plateau. You know, they get to a certain point and that's it, and they sort of hang around there. But Tekken 8 started out incredibly strong, and as soon as they announced the Fight Pass and the Tekken Shop, that's when things started to nosedive. And I hope this isn't indicative of where we're going, you know, with Tekken 8, because it is up to 6,215 now. So I hope that it is something that will improve, you know, that will get better again. Tekken 7 started out pretty weak and eventually was a behemoth by the time it ended. But it kind of feels like the buzz around Tekken 8 is kind of on the download, on Steam at least. And like I said, this is all just Steam metrics. This has nothing to do with any of the consoles. But again, when you compare it to Street Fighter 6, like that's gigantic. Gigantic. It has a smaller roster. So what is it? I'm asking you guys now, maybe you can let me know in the comments. What is it about Street Fighter 6 that is keeping people not only there, but coming back and getting new players involved? What is it about Street Fighter 6 that seems to be the winner, at least in this generation so far, of the big three of Mortal Kombat, Tekken, and of course, Street Fighter? Anyway, guys, I'll leave it there. Let me know what you think. Catch you next time.